A small child in the forest sees a lantern flickering in the distance. He follows it and soon realizes he's not alone. It's midnight and this kid is lost in the forest. He's been walking for what feels like hours, trying to find his way back to the road, but all he can see around him are trees. Suddenly, he notices something strange in the distance, a light flickering through the darkness. At first, he thinks it might be a car or a house, but as he gets closer, he realizes it's coming from a small village in the forest that wasn't there before. As he approaches the village, he can hear the sound of wind chimes and the faint smell of smoke reaches his nose. The flickering lights seem to be coming from inside some of the houses, and as he looks through the windows, he sees strange shadows moving in the darkness. Curiosity takes over and the kid steps into the village. As he walks down the empty street, he can feel the ground beneath his feet, cold and hard like ice. The houses are old and dilapidated, with broken windows and doors hanging off their hinges. The kid stops to look around, and that's when he hears it, the sound of footsteps behind him. He turns around, but there's no one there. So he starts running, following the sound of the footsteps until he reaches the edge of the village. There's a tall wall around the village, but he finds a gap in the stones big enough to crawl through. On the other side, he finds himself in a dark and narrow alley between two rows of even more dilapidated houses. He calls out for help, but no one answers. He's completely alone. Suddenly, he hears a noise above him, and he looks up to see a black cat jumping down from a rooftop. The cat stares at him for a moment, then disappears into the darkness. The kid continues to walk forward, and as he does, he notices that the air is growing colder and colder. He comes across a house that seems to be in better condition than the others. There's a light shining from one of the windows, and he can hear voices coming from inside. Hesitantly, he knocks on the door, and when no one answers, he opens it and steps inside. The room he's entered is dark and dusty, with cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. He can hear the voices now, whispering and murmuring in the darkness. Then he sees them, 3 shadowy figures standing in the corner of the room. They turn to face him, and the kid screams and runs away. He runs as fast as he can, trying to get away from the house and the village. But as he runs, he can feel the presence of the shadowy figures closing in on him. Suddenly, he trips and falls to the ground. As he lies there catching his breath, he looks up to see the 3 shadowy figures standing over him. They're tall and thin, with long, sharp teeth and glowing red eyes. They lean closer to him, their faces inches from his. And the kid screams in terror as they reach out to grab him. And that's when he wakes up. The kid sits up and looks around. He's lying in the forest, the ground hard and cold beneath him. He looks back at the village, but it's gone. All he can see is the tall wall and the iron gate. He tries to remember what happened, but it's all a blur. The last thing he remembers is seeing the 3 shadowy figures standing over him. He looks at his hands, then lets out a scream. His hands are covered in blood. He looks back at the village, then runs as fast as he can in the opposite direction. As he runs, he can hear the sound of footsteps behind him. He doesn't dare look back to see if the shadowy figures are following him. He just keeps running until he reaches the road. He looks back one last time, but all he can see is the dense forest. The village is gone. No one will believe him. He's all alone. Suddenly, he feels a hand on his shoulder and he jumps. He turns around to see a police officer looking at him with concern. Finally, the kid tells the officer everything he saw and everything he felt. But as he speaks, he realizes that the officer doesn't believe him. They're standing in front of the iron gate now, and the officer is about to close it when he stops. He looks back at the kid and asks, "Do you really think you were in there?" The kid nods, his eyes wide with fear, and that's when the officer closes the gate, trapping the kid on the other side. The kid screams in terror as the gate begins to rust and decay. He bangs on it with his fists, but it's no use. He's trapped forever. The officer smiles, and that's when the kid realizes that the officer is one of the shadowy figures. He reaches out to grab the kid, and that's when the screen goes black.